p.m. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We take roll, Mary?
Getzinger?
Here.
Murray?
Here.
Patrick?
Yep.
Swayacki here.
Okay. Public comments? Are there any public comments online? You should unmute your mic. I'm not hearing any public comments. We have 5 participants online. Under new business, we have our schedule of bills to be approved.
Anybody have any questions on the bills? No? I will make a motion to approve the previously paid fire bills, $640.85. General, $36,757.26. Current bills, fire, $3,115.82. General, $1,875.32. Trustee agency, current open invoices, $500, for a total of $42,889.56.
Support.
Have any questions?
Murray?
Yes.
Getzinger?
Yes.
Swayacki, yes. Patrick?
Yep.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we'll pay those bills.
Thank you.
Our main topic tonight is the discussion for single waste hauler versus transfer site. Information has been provided to the board. Some Mary had, some Jim brought in. And Sarah, you want to take it away?
Sure. One of the things that I wanted, that I talked about doing when I was running was that I wanted to look into having a single waste hauler. A lot of communities do use a single waste hauler for a variety of reasons. One is that it reduces the load on the roads, so you don't have multiple trucks making multiple stops every single day. And a lot of times you can get a better rate when you have more people opting into the service. So we had done a survey a couple years ago, and I asked for, and we all received the results of that survey. There were like 6 questions asked. They were all, everyone was kind of on the same page. There were 247 comments outside of the answers to the questions. And the big thing I took from that was that nobody could really answer whether they would use or would be interested in the single waste hauler without knowing what the cost would be. A lot of people were in favor of it if it didn't raise their taxes. Some people wanted it to be on their tax bills, others wanted it to be billed directly through the waste hauler. I kind of like the idea of the waste hauler doing all the invoicing, and that way you know exactly when you're given a quote of X amount of dollars per month or per quarter, that's the bill you're going to get from whatever waste hauler. There were questions as to whether the village would be included in this because they also are in the township. There were questions regarding people that are snowbirds and are not here during the winter months, if they'd be able to opt out for a certain time. And so I've told people those are all questions that we would put in the RFP, because I would imagine a lot, those are questions they would be accustomed to and have some answers for. So it's basically just to kind of talk this out. I had some ideas on what we could do with the transfer site because people are paying for the transfer site on their tax bills. And I had some ideas of either how we could still utilize that, but not as often, which could cut back on the tax bill or, that portion. But I don't know what all that billing and everything is, so.
Well, just roughly, let's just say it was $20 a quarter. That's $80 a resident. We have about 2,000 residents. That's $160,000 a year.
Okay.
So currently we're spending over 70
Wait, say that again, what's the 160,000 number you're talking?
That's how much it would be if we paid, or
We
actually all the
cover up to
residents.
2,000 residents in the township, and if it's $80, $20 a quarter, $80 a year.
What's that $80 figure for? You're talking about if we had curbside?
No, that's the transfer site. Is that the transfer site? Is that what you're talking?
No.
Oh,
So
that's
right-
for curbs.
Right now,
I'm getting, well, some of these I looked at were 30-something a quarter.
Right.
Somebody said $20 earlier, and I just took the $20.
Yeah,
Okay,
that
And
sounds
That's-
low to me. I know I
that
pay
sounds
over,
really low.
I pay
That's
over
not- yeah.
200. I know people who, I talked to people today who,
There's
are
30.
in a city that have a city contract, and they're paying actually almost 200. So I would say those numbers maybe are
200 annual.
annual. So if you
Okay.
said 20 a quarter, that's only $80 annual, that's way low.
Which takes us
Yeah,
up
that's
to
really-
100,000, so
I would suspect
This one from Ray
if I'm
was
paying
that one
over
next.
200 now, it'll probably be, hopefully, I assume would be a little less, but probably not a lot less.
Well, Ray
if it was
Township,
$200 a resident, it'd be what, $400,000 a year.
yeah, because Ray Township currently, theirs is 3627, they have GFL, and then
Mhm.
Priority Waste put in a bid of 3375 per quarter.
Per
And it
quarter.
gradually goes up.
And but that's a little
Those are with
different.
5-year contracts.
Right.
That's for, that's for 5-year contract, and was that for the curbside everything? One, I looked through that one.
Mixed waste and monthly collection of recyclables. Oh, monthly at the township recycle center.
Yeah, so that's why, there's no curbside recycle
And
in
then
some of those, let's see here.
And
I
then
think they
there's,
drop off 8 roll-offs or
curbside was
something like that
44.90.
by the fire
Yeah.
department, but if you get anything in there that's non-recycling, non-recyclable, the whole load gets denied.
right, right.
So to do every other week recycle curbside,
It was $45.
it's
$40.
$160 a year for every. No, that would be,
No,
that
that
was
would
their
be-
price,
To do garbage and recycling.
and recycle every other year. I'm sorry, every other week. Yeah, and I'm a
They do
little,
recycling and garbage.
every week.
Again, that's $500,000 a year.
Yeah, I actually pay, to be honest with you, a little less than you do, and I do garbage and recycle. But it depends on when you signed up. Yeah, it depends on when you
So
signed up. and-
usually you get a better deal by paying it all up front.
So, well, to me, I feel like it's, for me to analyze this, it's best to start at the beginning. So, right now we have a transfer site that some people use. It's my opinion, from the surveys and you see the garbage cans, the majority of residents do use curbside pickup.
Right.
So to me, it's a cost thing. The residents are gonna say, what is the most cost-effective option? But we are running into this transition, which concerns me, which is, I know people who get curbside, they go, I like the transfer site, cause then I don't really use it much, but I like that it's there. Which, in the long-term plan, to me, that's, not a good, it's a waste of money if you have both, right?
I would agree.
So, in my understanding, again, I get curbside pickup weekly, and I get recycle with that weekly. There was the Ray Township, they did their different options. I don't think that, that having to bring the recycle to a place is an option. People aren't gonna wanna do that. So to me, there's 3 options. One is keep doing what we're doing. 2 is, this is all my opinion, of course. 2 is, we negotiate, we solicit quotes for individual pay, where the residents pay directly, and it's just the township essentially publishing the rate. These are the rates for if you'd like to use them. If not, don't use them, use your own. Or it's facilitated through the township, where the township pays the bill. So let me say, I work for the city of Richmond. Richmond has that option, which is the residents paid on their tax bill. So it's not like it's an addition to the taxes. It's not like it's a hit to the fund, and you referenced the 400,000. It's not like it come out. So they pay it as a service fee on the taxes, and then the city pays monthly to waste management. And so I've called Waste Management as the easiest option to call and ask them questions, and of course, there's kind of a process that you'd have to go through to get to that point, you know, go public hearings and stuff like that. But, obviously, from an administrative standpoint, that's the most cost-effective option for Waste Management, so that your rates would be the lowest if everybody's required, if you will, to sign up, and the township pays, though. It's administered to the township. So I know New Baltimore does it. They have on top of that fee, they do have, I don't know if it's a dollar amount or percentage that they pay for kind of administering the contract. So, but every community is different. So like Richmond, quite honestly, if there's an issue with waste management, a resident calls the city and the city kind of handles it, calls waste management. In New Baltimore, as an example, they go, you gotta call waste management. So there's a lot less, and that would be what I wouldn't be wanting residents to call here and then you're having to handle that.
Well, I
I
know in
think it would be
Washington,
go
they
through
do a single source, and it is billed through the single source. I think they're with
To
GFL.
each property.
Right,
Yeah, so,
but the supervisor did used to, I don't know what he's doing now, but would handle calls and help people, to help the residents if they
Yeah.
were having difficulty,
Which-
you know, with stuff.
to me, that would be like the last resort, because that would get very time-consuming and cumbersome. As long as, certainly a performance clause, you know, if all of a sudden you're getting a bunch of calls, that means you're not performing, and then you need to consider going elsewhere. It's kind of ultimately where that would go, in my opinion. But, again, from a cost standpoint, it either has, if it's through the township, it has to be everybody, because if somebody said, oh, I don't want to do it, they could still put their garbage out, and the garbage truck driver's not gonna know. They're not checking an address list every time, so it really has to be all or nothing in a sense, and
Yeah, but I
But-
know,
I think they check addresses.
yeah, I'm
well,
sure they
I'm
do.
sure
'Cause
if you call Waste
'cause-
Management, they're gonna tell you, they're not checking them every week, so if I say, I don't want it, they're coming down my road anyway. I'm not saying that people would do this, but you could easily do it, and that's, I think, why they would be not supporting this, would be, they just put their garbage out. Who are they to know the difference? They're not paying for it, now
Yeah,
they're
I
getting.
thought Waste Management gave you a container, you have to put the stuff in.
Yeah, I don't know if it's required, that's another part of the contract to
Yeah,
talk about.
and
whether
then
containers
some
or
of the
not.
people that have been contacting me the last few days, I think you mentioned that you're already under contract with your provider, and if you cancel early, you pay
A penalty.
a penalty. So there's that to consider. There's
Well, just
the snowbirds
on
that
that point,
aren't
real
using.
quick, of course, I don't know if this is true, this is just through Waste Management, I did ask that question. They had said that, in their experience, even though they're competitors, if a resident's being forced, if you will, to go into another contract, Waste Management, if they were the ones, they write the letter that says, hey, we're now their provider, and they're, at least in this woman's experience, she said there's no issues. That transition is different than going, sorry, I found somebody cheaper, I'm
Okay.
sorry, but we have to, my township's provided, you know, and
I
not
wondered
to-
if there would be something like a gentleman's agreement
and I-
type of thing on that.
I think normally when you sign up, just like Jesse pays for a year and I pay for a year, normally it is a year contract, so my suspicion is snowboards, now, I don't know what they're doing now for garbage, but they're probably running into that same problem now, they're paying year round. I don't think it being through the township is gonna be any different than whatever they're doing now, they still are probably paying for a whole year, unless they're using a transfer site, you know, but.
And I was gonna say about recyclables, people do drive to the transfer site, so people do.
Yeah, well, when I
People
used the
think that
transfer site, I certainly brought my recycle then.
Yeah.
But I don't use the transfer site because I was planning my Saturdays around the transfer site and I had more important things to do, you know, so.
Yeah. And I know when I opted out of curbside service because my husband just takes the garbage to work and puts it in a dumpster. Because it's our
Uh-huh.
dumpster, and you know, so, so the only thing I would be interested in, for me personally, would be recycling. But maybe we could use the transfer site still on a quarterly basis or a monthly basis, which would still be,
Maybe.
instead of every 2 weeks, you know, if it was quarterly or something.
So as far as the transfer site, because that's the sticky point to me, and building people's trust on even facilitating this, you know, so there's, I haven't figured out the best way to transition, but to me, the people who wanna use the transfer site, which again, in my opinion, it's a low, it's like 10%. They are one who certainly cost is is the biggest motivator, not so much time, right? And they're gonna be a tough one to convince of anything other than the transfer, unless we tell them, well, you gotta pay, you gotta pay to use the transfer site, and we gotta pay 70 grand, and since only 200 people use it, well, then it's gonna be cheaper for you to go to curbside, you know, if you look at it that way, but how do you do that?
Right.
And then there's people who are worried about bulk items. Now, I know that's the one gentleman I know who has curbside, he likes it in case he has a bunch of stuff. The way a lot of contracts work, you set out you're allowed, you know, say one large item a week.
Right.
So you may not be able to empty your house in a week, but you're not supposed to be doing that anyway at the transfer site, filling up all the trucks. But as long as you plan it right, and you get, it specifically calls out how much regular garbage, and if you have one large item, and we would negotiate that into there, they call a cube truck, you know, a big truck that comes on and picks up the large item, because the regular trash truck driver calls it in. And so that kind of addresses, to me, a lot of that. Again, it's not gonna address cleaning out a barn that sat for 10 years.
Right.
You have to time it right. It's not perfect, but I think for most people, I've been able to avoid using the transfer site for a couple of years. I've had at least 3 years. You know, I have stuff, but if I plan it out right, you know.
Right, well, and like I said, we could still use the transfer site quarterly for different things, for large items, for electronics, for, a shredding, hazardous waste, a shredding event or something like that, if that is beneficial.
What you ultimately would have to do then is use the same provider
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'd
with that
build that in your
caveat
contract.
right,
Again, if they're doing large item though, weekly, then I think you might not need that. Sounds like there's a few people who are in the case like you who say, we have a dumpster at work, we don't wanna have to pay for it. And again, I don't know how to,
I make my
unless we're
husband
not
take the
trying to
big
be
items
cost
too.
effective for everybody else, you know.
Yeah,
then-
I'm just trying to throw out all
Yeah.
different options and stuff. We have big items that we throw out too, and he has to help
Yeah,
Brian get someone to help him load it in the truck and unload it. I'm not doing this for me, because I just wanted to try and ease the burden on the roads, and to see if there's, other options that are less costly for the taxpayers, and, if there's other things we could do there are some people that love going to the transfer site every 2 weeks.
Well, there's no question that no matter what we do, if we get into a single waste hauler, we're talking $400,000 or $500,000 a year. So if you wanna even consider that, it's gonna have to be a way to figure out.
well, what is that? Well, it would go on the tax bill, I'm not sure what you mean.
That's what I mean, we'd have to generate that through a tax,
Oh, yeah,
payment
yeah.
or something.
So
like
again,
that.
either it's individual
either-
pay,
Right.
which may be the way to transition in my mind. Maybe it's, we publish rates and say, these are the rates, and,
Right.
oh, by the way, we plan to eventually go through, we're gonna start the process of getting a single waste hauler, and, once
If we
we
do
see
that, are
what's
people
working.
still gonna use Busy Bee and?
I think that it's gonna
GR?
come down to dollar amount.
Right, I was
And
gonna
if
say,
we
it's gonna
publish-
come down to the cost,
if-
and if we've got 2,000 homes, potentially, according to Tom, that we're
Yeah,
close to
roughly
that.
about 2,000 residents.
If we can get a better price than what you're getting on your own, just,
Yeah. So, this is,
it might be a better
Jack-
deal for people.
Jesse and I are neighbors, so this is a good example. Every time I get a bill, I call them, and they go, well, you don't have a contract, so we just arbitrarily raise it a lot. And if you call and complain, oh, we'll take it down a little bit. That's kind of what's happened for me the last couple of years, because we're not locked in, and it goes up like a lot every year. I'm sticker
And it's
shock, and then it comes
and
back
it's an
down.
automatic renewal too, you don't even have to call them and they'll renew it for you.
So,
So at least
if
with
we
this,
have a
know what you're
contract, or if we solicit rates,
Then we're
because we're
locked
neighbors,
in,
we're paying a different amount.
right, and so
So
then
then
we're
we'll
locked
tell 'em,
into,
Okay, we've
they
got
give us
this.
the price.
Yeah, and we could publish all the rates. The reality is, we're probably gonna go, okay, this is the lowest. If you use this X company, then this is the rate you'll get, and maybe after a year, we find out that 90% of the township's using that one company.
But see, you can't really do that, cause then you're not having a single waste hauler, it defeats the purpose.
Well, I'm just
So
trying to
you
think
would
of a
just say like
transition.
ABC company is
Yeah.
this much, you know, quarterly with a 5-year contract, and this is what the rate's gonna be for the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, I agree, but I don't, I just am trying to throw out options. Right. Right, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no,
That's
I would not suggest that. I was thinking to have whatever the single waste hauler is, do the special events.
Real quick on the village, they are part of the township, so do you think, to
We
me,
have to
they would
contact
be.
village council.
That's what
Oh,
my
okay.
thought was.
You think we do have to contact the village council?
Yeah.
I talked to
Yeah.
Michelle before, and she
Okay.
said she'd have to, put it in front of council.
But I suspect that they would support it if we were to negotiate a rate, and it's on the township taxes, it would go on their tax bill as well.
Yeah, 'cause
Well, not
you look up and
necessarily.
down the streets when they put the cans out, there's priority waste and waste management,
Right.
they're divided up pretty good.
Yeah, I've seen priority quite a bit recently, I don't know when they kinda got that foothold recently, yeah. They're bright yellow, maybe that's
Yeah, well,
intentional.
plus the dumpsters are rolling off at pretty fair rates too, so
Uh,
some waste management contractors, then.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were very competitive with what we're doing now at the transfer site. You know, the two companies were $1,000 apart. There was no way to say yes or no to either one of them. They're both good companies.
Yeah, my suspicion is GFL wanted to get in there to get their name known for if we do a township wide, that's my suspicion, business wise. Okay, well, I don't know if we've made any progress really, this is good talking, but I think that it's gonna come down to, do we wanna just, start the process of saying, this is, eventually we're gonna have to go, we know this is better for you, I know
Right.
there's people who are suspicious, but we've negotiated prices and we've done our research, and even though you don't wanna trust us, this is the right thing, and we're
And
doing
I
it.
would do a flexible millage. Let's just say Sarah has a $200,000 home and I have a $50,000 home.
It's just a price per house. No, it'd be
Yeah,
it'd be
yeah,
a
it's
service
not a
fee that
millage,
gets
it's a
added to the
service
bill,
fee.
so it would be $200 on your tax bill every year, on your summer tax bill, say, that's what
So
it would be.
that's where people
On the
don't want,
worst
they don't
one.
want anything on their taxes.
yeah, they
Exactly. I
don't,
mean,
that's
Then
why,
they could be responsible to
So then-
pay for their own.
Yeah.
That's
To me-
I wouldn't put anything on the taxes.
Then to me, I don't think we can, if we don't do it that way, I don't think we can
No.
force people to say,
No.
you can only use waste management here, you gotta pay the bill. I don't think that's gonna happen, they're gonna, well, I'm not paying.
No, they'll use their own.
that's
Yeah,
what
so-
other communities
So to
have
me, we're
done
not
though.
gonna do a single waste hauler.
Other communities have done it, and
Have
they're
told people
paid.
they have to use a specific company?
Yeah, because they've negotiated such a good deal that they couldn't,
Well, did they force them to, or they just say the money?
no, they're
talks?
not forced to, because I know when I lived there, I didn't want the service, because I didn't need it, and so I just had to sign a letter, an affidavit saying that I was refusing,
Waiving their,
yeah, waiving my services because I had alternate means,
Right.
and I had to put down what the means were, because it's not like I'm just throwing stuff off the side of the road or whatever.
Yeah.
But, so I opted out, so I never got I never got anything on my taxes, and I didn't
No
get a bill.
no pickup.
I struggle with that.
To me, it's not. If we don't put it on the tax bill, I don't think, I think we could negotiate a rate, and then in 6 months, somebody else comes in and says, we really want that, we're gonna undercut it and try to get gain some of that business, we don't care, that's what I suspect, I don't really know, but that's what I
So if
suspect.
you have your agreement that you,
Right, you
But-
signed an agreement for
But it's not
however
an
many
agreement
years.
with, if we have an agreement with waste management, we don't have an agreement with priority waste, who tells priority waste they can't come in for a lower price? I mean, certainly we would expect they're gonna bid it aggressively, if they did bid it.
Right, because we're gonna send, I mean, I would think that we would send RFPs to all these, you know, and so they know that we are interested in doing a single waste hauler. So, you know, sharpen your pencils when you're submitting your quotes. Right.
Well, again, I don't think
And then
that's
when it's
because of-
time, let's say that, you know, there's a 3-year or a 5-year or whatever, like in the case of Ray, there's
Up to
a
10, I thought
5-year
that was
thing.
crazy myself.
But,
With the 5-year extension,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a long time. But, you know, but whatever the case may be, let's say it's a 3-year. So in 2 years, we're gonna go out for bid again. And so if you really wanted that contract and you didn't get it, you know, what are you gonna do?
to me, we're essentially would just be
It's just like any other.
negotiating a price for others, you know, like,
Right.
I can't even think of an example, like a wholesaler or a co-op or something.
Well, right, but that's, I mean, we're looking out in the best interest of the residents that are paying taxes, and we're trying to be responsible.
But how competitive can you really be, and how far can you really take it down when you know you're gonna get 60% of the business and 40% of the business is gonna have.
Yeah, that's my concern. They're gonna wanna know how many people are signing up. So you'd have to I don't know, do you give them tiered pricing? That was the thought I had a couple of years ago was, okay, when my initial call to Waste Management a couple of years ago was, could you price, okay, if there's 500 homes or less, this is the rate. If
25%
there's,
of the residents.
yeah, 50, 75, 100, you know, what is the,
I
and they
know
said,
what
yeah, well, we
Washington
could do
did, but
that.
they just said, this is the best, you know, these are all the prices we got, this is the quote, you know, from each thing, this, you know, this is the best one, and this is the one that they, whatever one they voted on. And
So
that's the one that they have.
If you did that route, I do suspect that the other companies, because it's not a mandatory, I suspect they wouldn't let you cancel your contract early. You might have to wait till yours is up.
And I think too, the thing about the transfer site is paid out of the general fund, doesn't cost anybody money, so it's free.
Yeah, and that's the
That's
mindset. That's the
evil-
mindset,
That's the
yeah.
evil you're gonna
Well,
have to kill.
yeah, it's in your taxes,
That's
but
the
it's
way
not
you're gonna have to go.
designated as
Mhm.
such.
They started that,
2005, I think I had
I
on
thought
here.
it was-
2004,
I thought it's been there a lot longer than that.
not long.
My notes said 2005, but that was,
I think they just might have been throwing it in a pile and burning it before that.
yeah.
Cause that was the dump, apparently they had a hole in the ground there at one time and put stuff in it.
That's what you were telling me.
Well, the price has undeniably gone up a lot for the transfer site, and so that is certainly spurring this discussion. And so,
What would be nice to know is how many people are currently in the township using curbside pickup?
yeah, I had meant to call recently and just didn't have time to call like Busy Bee and call Priority and say, how many customers do you have at 48005 zip code? Yeah, but I don't know if they tell you that. They might tell the township that.
I don't know.
So, Sarah, based on this conversation, are you envisioning that somewhere before February, we would have put out a request for proposals and listed?
You should know that Gene Presley made a point of making sure that we understood the transfer site's really not free, because her tax dollars do go into the general
Yeah.
fund.
Right,
We're not paying for it. What I might have misspoken.
No, I knew
Because
what
they're
you
not
We know what
paying
she meant.
I knew what
It
you
is.
for
meant, yeah.
for a trash site, but yes, you're right
A lot of
very
people
much, Gene.
see it that way, even though it's not.
So what if we, the money that we're using now for the transfer site, that we throw it at this new waste hauler and then that would
reduce,
the.
that's
Well,
a thought I
I
had also,
I don't know how that
Jesse.
would work, especially if they're paying on their own. Who gets it, you know?
It's up-
Well,
the-
it would be across the board.
Well, so the people who aren't paying
So it
garbage
would be
are
like a
paying-
That would be a nightmare for them for booking.
Yeah, and
Right.
somebody who's chosen not to get the garbage service, now they're paying for somebody else's garbage. Even though
That's
they are
true.
now with the transfer site, but still.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that would be a tough one. I think we just have to reallocate that somewhere else. And just to be clear, there was never a millage or anything for the transfer site. It was just taken out of the general fund.
Right. But that's where, like, I had those other ideas for events, for, you know, a shredding event, a you know, or something that we could use that if need be.
I think shredding is a total different company.
Yeah,
You know, those are
usually is.
even.
Right, because they have the
yeah,
trucks
yeah,
that come in and
right, yeah,
shred and,
right.
you know, and
Our
take away right there.
Our banks kind of do that on the cycle.
Right, but I've heard that the banks only do it for their customers, and not everyone banks.
Hmm.
That's what I heard, I don't
Yeah,
know if
that
that's
quite
true or not.
possibly true, yeah, that could be.
Not everyone banks?
Well, not
If-
everyone
if
banks,
not, they
if
don't
they have
go to their bank.
particular,
Okay, not
they
to
don't
that
go to
bank,
their
yeah,
bank.
and say, I hope people are using the bank
Yeah.
nowadays. Those are in good shape. Hmm.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I would suggest, my idea would be to, you know, pool all this information together and come up with an RFP, some language, what things that we would want included. If we had, you know, like, let's say 2,000 homes,
Well, the quote packages they have in here now are pretty comprehensive, they just need to be tweaked a little bit if you want
Yeah.
to tweak something.
Right.
Would, I mean,
right, and then just, and decide where we're gonna send them out to or whatever, and just compile the information so that when this contract expires in February, we already should know by the end of this calendar year what we're gonna do, so that it's a smooth transition.
I'd be willing to like do a preliminary draft with a contract for everybody to look at and then go with it or take over if you want. I'm only offering that, I mean,
Well, I can
if I do
send you,
specs,
I can send you the one from Ray, cause Bob Seaver drafted this.
Yeah,
you have it in Word,
I believe I can get it from Lori.
and of course I have the one
So instead of
Uh,
rewriting it,
from Richmond that's in Word.
yeah.
Right,
That's the one I was gonna use. But so, to steer my thinking on that, so it would be, individual pay, right?
Yes.
yeah, that would,
And
That
it
would
would
be
be, a starting date of, should we do our fiscal year, like April 1? Or is that put the people in the lurch? The transfer site, if the transfer site ends when?
I believe February.
February.
yeah.
So 2/1/22 start date? Would it be annual pay for the individuals? I don't know if that's necessary, but I'd like to be as thorough as I can. Would they be
yeah,
paying
it would be like
quarterly
a
or
monthly
annually?
rate, and then do they
I
offer
don't know if
any
people can offer
incentives?
annual, or they, you know. I think
You know,
some each
do they
individual.
offer any
So we
incentives
could
if
do
someone
it
paid all upfront all
Quarterly
at once?
or,
Okay, because you could, they could, okay,
It's just like your propane.
Right,
okay, what other questions? I would say 3 years.
yeah, I don't
a
think,
minimum.
I would at least
Yeah.
start with that.
I mean, 5 years seems like an awful long time, but,
I still envision ultimately going to, but you guys may not, but go to the township pay. That's how I envision would be the cost savings in the future. But I think that this may be a good compromise to start us essentially negotiating. I think the supervisor agrees with me that I don't think we're gonna end up with a single waste hauler by doing this. But I think it may get us closer to a single waste hauler. Maybe I'll be surprised that the rates are such that people do switch. Okay, I think there should be a language about, they'll take them on, they'll prorate, at least for the first year, based on when they end their current contract, in case they don't allow them to
Okay,
just cut off.
Yeah,
Right.
and their rates are really gonna be based on what's the percentage of customers am I gonna get? You know,
Yeah,
you know,
so,
Right,
okay,
'cause
so
You're
that's
if
asking me to
one
quote something, am I gonna get 10% of the people in Armada, or am
Should
I
I-
gonna get 80%?
Should I do,
Right.
tiers, you know, less than 25%, between 25 and 50, 55 and 75, 75 and 100, as far as their rates?
I don't know if they'd
I
submit it like
understand
that.
at least
That'd be
yeah,
that's
that would be
something
really
to-
difficult,
That would really, really be difficult for them
I
to do
think-
that. I think it's all one or nothing.
yeah.
Okay,
And then I envision, once we get all these prices and everything, we'll, you know, put it out there and have a,
That people are gonna start slowly jumping on board. You know, once they see, oh, okay, well, this is what I'm paying, now it's not so bad.
right. And that's why I wanted to, like, get started talking about it now, so that people get used to,
And it seems to me it's a whole lot more garbage
So to me, we're just, they're gonna look at probably how many customers they have now.
Yeah,
And
it's hard to
say-
keep, hard to keep garbage around for 2 weeks in the summer.
Yeah, it is,
Yeah.
I know. Okay, what about,
Well, and like kitty litter, I mean, people have told me about, you know, they've got kitty litter that they're driving around in their trunks for a couple weeks and,
what about, yeah, that's gross. What about, wheeled containers or anything?
Usually they'll provide them.
Do we wanna
Yeah.
specifically say that they'll provide one? Cause it's, I think it's a 96
I wouldn't
trash.
see why they would have a problem doing that, then they'd know that where their
And-
people are.
right. I mean, it would be a question to ask,
I
do you
signed up for
provide?
someone new
We'll
and they
just
gave me a card.
Say that's included in the, price, okay.
Stipulated that I have used theirs, because I
Right.
have old ones from PCD,
Right.
and I won't use it, because I'm afraid I'll pick up the garbage out.
They wanna know that, that's how they probably know that you're a paying customer, is by getting
Yeah,
Mhm.
it.
I believe that supply container.
Right.
Okay. What I use I recycle, I have the little 18-gallon bins, but to me, a lot of them are going towards the wheeled, larger containers.
That's
Yeah,
what I
they
have
can
in
auto load.
Florida.
They can auto load them in their truck, they don't have to
Yeah.
lift them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know, I've never seen the garbage guy, I don't think they auto load the garbage, here, if they have to, do they just dump it manually into the back of the truck? Have you ever seen them empty the garbage can?
Yes.
It does hook on.
Yeah, it's an auto load, yeah.
Well, I probably set it out backwards, cause I thought that they didn't, so never mind.
No,
The
that's-
wind, I make it
that's
so the
a-
wind
that's
doesn't
a
blow it
speed and
open.
liability thing, you know, you get your guys with bad backs and stuff
Yeah,
like that,
okay.
and you start losing people, so.
Um,
And they're like clockwork.
so this would be residential only?
Yes.
Both of these contracts, I think said commercial would just have to call and negotiate a rate on their own.
I would think.
Okay. So to me, it needs to be clear that it's not everybody in the township, but I list approximately 2,000 total, but they're not required to sign up, maybe.
Right, like, there's like roughly 2,000 single-family residences. We didn't count like apartments and stuff like that because they have the dumpster
They're
service
commercial,
and,
so, yeah. Oh, well,
A lot of people with
the,
waste at the end of their driveways.
yeah, I would say at least 90%, that's my guess.
on this survey that was done a couple of years ago, one of the questions is, do you currently have or pay for curbside garbage pickup? 391 said yes, 278 said no.
That's about,
Well, and also that didn't
But
include
that
people who had
didn't-
mortgages.
But
Yeah,
no,
like,
this was only
I
sent
didn't
out to
actually even
people
get
that,
that survey because
pay
it
their
went to
own
my mortgage
taxes.
company.
If you have
So-
a mortgage, you didn't get it.
I didn't think that, yeah. So I didn't even take the survey, and I was on the board because I didn't get it, and I forgot to go on the website and fill it out.
so that's why I said I wanted it to go to every single resident.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise you're not getting a fair representation, you know.
throw it on the next ballot,
Pardon?
throw it on the next ballot, let the voters vote.
Well, that's a long time, we got ways away for that.
Unless you put another question in there in the July tax.
But it still wouldn't go to,
Then it wouldn't go
No, you
to,
can do that, you can have them sent to you can have KCI send them to, those who have.
okay.
okay.
Cause,
There was one person in here that commented that it was vacant land and they weren't interested.
Yeah.
Another person said it was vacant land, but they do plan on building on it in the near future.
Yeah, that's,
So,
they wouldn't have been charged anyway because it's not per parcel, it's per
Right.
resident. So
right.
it's just an understanding thing.
Um,
Is there anything, I'm trying to think, is there any other questions that I would need from you guys to? No, because it's not a mandatory, there wouldn't be any extra dumpsters in there because the township's not paying. So I should probably, already know that. Recycle, garbage and recycle, right?
And large
Mhm.
items,
Oh, yeah, okay.
well,
Then they have
typically,
to call for large item, right?
yeah, typically haulers will take large items, you just have to let them know ahead of time.
So in the one example, it says, putting an item out by the road constitutes you notifying them that you have a large item. So again, the regular truck comes by and says, there's a large item, there's a couch sitting out here, and they call it in and somebody comes and picks it
Right,
up.
I've done
But
that
again,
in
it says
Florida.
one large item per week. And I think that's what I would say, that at least to start in this draft, I would list that, that's included, kind of copy that language.
Right.
Okay.
One large item per week.
Do you guys agree with that, at least for a draft? I mean,
Yeah, that's fine.
Unfortunately, maybe some people can afford to replace all their furniture in 1 week, but not me.
Nope, I don't have that problem either.
You know,
Didn't
either.
replace the old stuff.
I know. Okay. You think that's enough to?
Well, that's a good start, too.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
that's a good
well, let
start
me,
too.
and so you'll email me
I'll
that
email
one?
you, yep.
I'm not sure which one I'll work off of, but I'll
Or
grab
combine
something,
them.
I think, so.
I
No
think,
problem.
we should call another work session once you get to a point where.
Yeah, you have to give me a little bit of time. Yeah, I agree.
That'll work. Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, we're gonna send something out then.
Yeah, once,
Let's see how,
He's-
once I get it done, and then.
we'll have another meeting to
Maybe the
hash
meeting,
that
yeah.
out and stuff before it goes
We'll be
to
able
an
to take a
RFP.
look at it and make some tweaks or whatever needs to be done. Get a final draft.
And really,
Mm-hmm.
you really think it through too, is that gonna work, are we presenting in a way that will get
The word out.
buy-in and get the word out? How would we notify people, just through the tax bills, I like the idea of the flyer. If we should be sending one in every tax bill now. The next 2 tax bills, we should be sending something.
And we can add,
Doesn't have to be
Yeah,
a
that's
survey,
okay.
but it could be, hey, this is what we're doing.
Change is coming.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
yeah, just a little heads up, we're talking about this, good,
maybe we could do a survey still with the one.
maybe once we
maybe
get
we'll-
some pricing information, we can say,
Put it
this
out
is this is what we've got, we came together, we got this, we put out this RFP, this is, what costs would be, would you be interested in it at X amount? If it's, heck yeah, a lot of those, yeah, then, or if it's a lot of, oh no,
So
You
when
know.
when do the tax bills get mailed?
they're supposed to go out July 1st.
Yeah, so this would be tough probably I'm not sure if I'd have it done in time to have a special meeting before the tax bills are mailed.
I know.
To
Right.
discuss it and then tailor the flyer based on our discussion.
Right.
See, I could do a mailing without having. to
Right.
do it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't wanna waste $1,000 in postage though either,
Well, if you want them open out, then you
Yeah.
have to notify.
Okay.
Before February.
Well, we'll see how this goes,
Right.
That's true,
Yeah.
for sure. But again, I don't think we're going down the path where we're forcing anybody anyway, so quite honestly, if somebody doesn't know, well, if they use the transfer site, they might have a rude awakening, but everybody else, it may not.
Well, we
make
could
sense.
even
Start
make
posting
some
it there.
posters
Yeah,
and put them out at the transfer site. Coming soon,
Hang
or,
flyers, sure.
or,
Good idea.
Hang up the flyers. Yeah.
it'll give them a heads up and it'll only cost, $20 to make posters.
And I thought this was gonna be a hot button.
Oh, it is.
people just don't pay attention to
Oh, no,
the meetings,
No, it's not being changed yet. Wait until it starts, until we go to change.
Yeah, and a lot of people are busy, so they may not, probably didn't know even we're having this meeting, but I do know somebody told me it was on Facebook, so they've been trying to get the word out.
I did put it out
Yeah.
on Facebook.
It is gonna be it's just next, it's, what are we gonna
It's
do?
a step forward.
Either stay with what we got or go with single waste hauler, but we have to make some decisions.
And it took a while for Ray to move.
And it has to be right,
So
but it has to be cost effective, you're looking at 70,000 and anybody can go into that's a taxpayer and use it, and you're looking at 400,000 to 500,000 and not having a transfer site, so, and then the taxpayers are paying that 400,000 to 500,000.
Well, if we assume 90% of that are already paying, you got 360,000 plus 70,000,
How do we get the taxpayers all to use the transfer site?
yeah. I think the price of that would go up if everybody was using it.
Right. And right now, it's like you said, the traffic, because I've driven by a couple times on a Saturday and,
What's that?
I haven't driven by it on a Saturday in a long time.
It's busy, but I'll tell you what,
It's
those,
a lot more
those guys
organized.
in GFL are flying, they're flying through these people.
I've
They
got a
don't even
lot,
want people getting out of their cars, they're hopping around and jumping.
yep, I've got a lot of phone calls that are,
Incredibly
it's working out
positive.
really well.
Incredibly,
good.
I mean, I've had people drive around the transfer site and come back in, they drive to my truck and tell me that they're very impressed and happy with the service. Yeah, they're doing a wonderful job, great people, I know I've met all the people that work at the site, they're just real nice people, hard workers.
Yeah,
Oh, they certainly
Well,
will
you
be,
have to
yeah.
submit an RFP for
Right.
everybody,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
and like I say, I mean, we can add to that with the, you know,
Gonna ask them if they could swing down Queen Creek after one of the Saturdays.
Yeah, that's true.
It's gonna end up as being a county issue.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Jim, you'll draft that out?
Yeah, if you
Let
could
us know.
email me what you have
I will do
in
that.
Word format, that would help.
I can do that, no problem. Okay, all right.
Anybody else? I'd like to thank Gene Presley for your input. It was important, and thank you for keeping us on task, and everybody else for joining us online. Are there any board comments?
no, I appreciate the opportunity to put this together and see if we can do anything to help everybody. It's worth looking into, and it's worth getting answers for these people that did respond to the survey a couple of years ago and never heard anything. So it was important to me to do it.
Hearing that, I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:46.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks again, everybody, for coming. Have a great night, and happy Memorial Weekend coming up to all our